Alright, so if you're wondering what's going to move markets this week, well, this is one of those weeks where pretty much everything hits at once. Hey everyone, happy Monday, January 12th. I'm Endrit Sella, and this is Capital Markets Quickie. Let's jump into what's driving the week ahead. Quick note before we dive in. Today's episode is brought to you by AMF Capital Asset Management Frankfurt. Learn more about our funds and strategies at amf-capital.de. Alright, let's dive right in. Yesterday wrapped up a relatively quiet weekend, but starting today, things pick up fast. We've got major bank earnings, key inflation data, and a full slate of corporate and economic reports that could easily set the tone for markets into the end of January. Earnings season really gets going tomorrow with reports from some of the biggest names in U.S. finance. J.P. Morgan kicks things off, followed by Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and several other large institutions throughout the week. Last quarter, banks delivered solid results across the board, and expectations are that earnings could show further improvement to close out the year. That said, there's still plenty of caution out there. J.P. Morgan's CEO has warned about ongoing uncertainty in the U.S. economy, while Wells Fargo has already flagged that net interest income growth could slow this year. We'll also hear from BNY Mellon and Goldman Sachs, which should give more color on capital markets activity and client demand. Outside of banking, Taiwan Semiconductor reports earnings as well, and that's a big one for the artificial intelligence trade. Investors will be watching closely to see whether chipmakers can keep delivering strong revenue growth amid booming demand for AI chips. Delta Airlines also reports, offering a read on consumer travel after last year's government shutdown caused disruptions and potentially slowed the recovery. On the macro side, inflation takes center stage tomorrow with the release of December's Consumer Price Index. In the prior report, inflation slowed to 2.7%, and markets will be looking for confirmation that price pressures continue to cool. We're also getting delayed wholesale inflation data from October and November, which could add more insight into how pricing trends are feeding through the economy. All of this matters because the Federal Reserve is still divided on whether to cut interest rates at its next meeting in late January. Several Fed officials are scheduled to speak this week, so investors will be listening carefully for any hints about where policy is headed. We'll also get retail sales data for November, which should tell us how strong the 2025 holiday shopping season really was. On top of that, delayed reports on new and existing home sales are expected, as housing activity remains under pressure from affordability challenges. And finally, the U.S. budget deficit report will give an update on tariff collections and government finances. So yeah, it's a busy one. Big earnings, key inflation data, and plenty of potential market-moving headlines. Buckle up, and let's see how it all plays out this week. Alright, that wraps up today's Capital Markets Quickie. Join me again tomorrow morning for more market updates. See you then.